Welcome to the Partytrick podcast, where we inspire and empower you to elevate every day.
Today, I'm talking with Lauren from the Modern Hippie Way. We talk about a new way to define the word hippie, intentional gathering, presence as a present, some favorite hosting hacks, a little bit about her cookbook, and all of the other fun stuff that goes into creating these businesses around connection and memorable experiences. Enjoy. Welcome today, Lauren. I'm so excited to have you here. Thank you. And I cannot wait for you to share more about the Modern Hippie Table with us and chat events and life, entertaining, female founder, all the good stuff.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm excited too.
Of course. Well, guys, we just caught up a little bit before we hit record, and Lauren was telling me her daughter just graduated from high school. And so this morning she has been cleaning up after the mess. And what is the expression that you just used to call that party? Because I know it, but I want to make sure our listeners know this one.
It's called a darty, which is a day party in senior language. And I first learned of the term last year when she was a junior and she got invited to a darty. And I said, are you throwing darts or like, what is this thing? She's, Mom, it's a day party. So as a senior mom, I realized that is a thing because kids that the party can easily stop at a time. You can say it's 1 to 5. And parents have these kids out of the house before dinner, before night. And so it's typically a lot less rowdy. So I appreciate the darty.
I love a good darty. I'm actually like a really early morning person, and I live in Aspen, Colorado. So a lot of my time in my early 20s was spent doing the whole app racing, which I think is like the original darty. Gotta love a good darty. And then you can go to bed, it finishes earlier, or go out. You never know. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Amazing.
So it's fun. I've been
Oh,
cleaning
cool.
up.
I love that. So Lauren, tell us, we connected on Hey Mama initially, and then we've learned a lot about each other since, and we have a fun blog on Host How I Host, on Partytrick about you, and you have a phenomenal cookbook and book that's called The Modern Hippie Table. Tell us about it. Like, give me your story and wherever you want to go. I can't wait to hear.
Sure. The Modern Hippie Way always been my platform, and whatever I've done, whether it's a natural products business or a travel blogging. Modern hippie is a term that I love to use. They're kind of two extreme terms. And hippie is a way or a movement back in the 70s that people sort of really knew how to slow down. They actually, to a fault, they just knew how to slow down and all be together. And it's kind of back to a time too where families prioritized meal times together. They were all sitting around, people were cooking, they had lots of family dinners on Sundays. And so now in today's society, in the modern society, is we are really struggling to all sit down together when we have families, especially with multiple children and dual income working households. And it seems like we're Uber drivers everywhere. We are trying to even get food on the table, let alone together, let alone make it delicious. So like you and how you got started with your brand, you just have this knack. We kind of have this knack for knowing how to host a dinner, a party, and it kind of comes easily to us. And so people were always asking me, like, how do you do that? How do you go all day to a lacrosse tournament and come home and like have people over and you're able to sit with them while dinner's cooking? And so I realized that teaching that is important because it doesn't come easily to a lot of people, but it's a very important thing in today's society that we are all making sure our children are seeing. So the Modern Hippie Table is sort of a tribute to making that a priority.
I love that so much. And I feel like your use of the word hippie is really cool because I think about my mom and just like hippy dippy in this way that's not how you're using it. And it makes people rethink. And it does exactly as you said, bring you back to slowing down, shared experiences, being seen, being heard, not this like wild craziness. And, I look at presence is the greatest gift, shared experiences, gathering is a necessity. It's not a luxury. And so that lifestyle, that way, and teaching others is just, I mean, it's everything. We're so aligned. And I think the more people we can empower, the better, because it's the memories that matter at the end, right? It's that
Right,
shared
right.
experience. Yeah.
Exactly. And what I tried to do in my cookbook is really not just put recipes in, but there's 12 menus scattered throughout the book, and they they take recipes from my book, and they, like, let's say, from anything from like an easy casual weeknight feast to a backyard neighborhood party, or a brunch for a shower. It takes recipes from my book, puts them together into a menu for you, and then it also talks about how to set the scene for that evening. And so those little hacks, and when sometimes people are intimidated by cookbooks because they'll look for a main course and go, oh gosh, now I have to think of a side. And what do we do? Like, how do I? So in with each menu, and sometimes mostly for even each recipe, I teach like hacks on how to make this happen so that you can spend time with your family and your guests and actually enjoy hosting, because you are enjoying the gathering. You're not stuck in the kitchen. You're not missing out while, let's say, your husband is in the other room with guests. So that was important to me, because you can give recipes and you can say, oh, I'm good at hosting parties. But like you, how do we make that teachable to people so that they're wanting to throw parties and not going, oh my gosh, I just can't even imagine having four people over, let alone 50.
Yeah, or I'd rather go to the dentist than do this, or I'd
Yeah.
rather like for those. And I love how for you, and this is so aligned with me as well, it's about creating stuff where you can actually enjoy and participate. It's not about, I mean, obviously everything's going to be and taste delicious, but I think a lot of times people, when they're trying to craft a menu, don't know this goes with that, or how to set a scene, this goes with that other thing. And so they look for a menu that looks great, but that menu may not actually be great for entertaining and great for
Right.
hosting. So they're going to be in the kitchen too much, the prep's too long, or it has to be at such a perfect temp that like fires and then gets plated, that they miss that time interacting with their guests before. So I think being really mindful and intentional about what you're serving, how you're crafting that experience, is something that a lot of people miss.
Yeah.
Like in
Yeah.
a traditional kind of cookbook sense, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
It
Yeah.
does. It does.
Yeah.
And actually, a little bit of background is I have a master's degree in psychology, and I'm married to a architect. Actually, he won international awards, and he's very mindful about the space, the soul of the space. And so, as a couple, I think it's an honor to come over to our house, because we take so much into making sure that the guests, or no matter how old, no matter how many, even if it's our little family of four, we just want to make people feel like transported to a place where they feel special in our presence, where they're like, wow. And sometimes they don't realize what it is, but we've carefully thought about the lighting. We've thought about the music, the ambiance, because we all know we like to go into a restaurant that's great ambiance and great food. You don't want just one without the other. So likewise in your home, I think it's important to just have a guest walk into a house where there's not crazy barking dogs jumping up on them, and your flowers everywhere in the kitchen, meaning like flowers to take with,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's a mess, and you're a stress case. People feel that energy and they don't feel comfortable. So we, as a duo, we've always really felt that it's very important to make people feel like, even more than the meal itself, just to feel very special. And there's all kinds of things that inspired me growing up, coming from a family of entertainers, and cooking and tradition. That's all inspired me to really honor and pay attention to that.
I think the intentionality and again, that presence and thought of how the experience impacts other is what takes it to the next level. And I used to always tell my clients, they read, if you want, and this is like specific to a wedding, if you want your guests to have a great time, and if you're stressed, they're not going to have a great time. If you want them dancing, get out and dance. If you're intentional about your behavior, how you're interacting with them and composing the space, it sets the stage for that success, for those memories to be made, for those conversations to be had. And that's a gift. I mean, if people are going to
It
spend
is.
their time,
It
their
is.
most precious asset with you, it better be good.
Yeah.
um,
When I was interviewed for your blog
mhm.
recently, and you asked a question that was so great. And I just want to share it. It was, what are some tips on how to break the ice? Because I think sometimes people are intimidated to have anyone over because they're nervous that people are going to be uncomfortable or they're not going to know how to make people. And so one of my, well, two things I answered, my favorite little hacks are to have like pre-made cocktails ready because people make so many decisions during the day. Sometimes, even if they don't drink, they can politely decline. Or if they don't like bourbon, they can politely, they try it and say, oh my gosh, I love this. I'm going to start. So I love having those pre-made cocktails ready if it's a small gathering. And then I also love to break the ice with asking questions that when you're all sitting around during cocktail hour, you're sipping on your cocktail or your bev mocktail. I love asking questions that make people think, like, what is something that you're good at that nobody else would know about you?
Mm-hmm.
And, or even something slightly uncomfortable, it sort of breaks the ice and people go, ah, I can be me. I can be me. And then you get the quiet ones talking and you get the ones like me whose husbands sometimes go, oh gosh, Lauren, what are you going to say tonight? And I'm like, oh, this is amazing. I can be myself and I can say shit or say whatever. And
Totally.
I think that was a great question you asked because we can give menus and we can give all these suggestions, but we also as hosts want to make people feel like you can relax and have a good time.
Yeah, I'm so spot on. And thank you for sharing that. I was going to ask. So I'm glad you brought that up and jumped right on in. I would say, I think always removing someone's need to make a decision. I know that sounds weird. A lot of people were like, oh, I want to make my decisions. We make so many decisions that having just something simple, like having a cocktail ready, a mocktail ready, it means that it's one less decision that
Yeah.
is a pretty mindless one. I also, one of my favorite along those lines, I like to set one small thing that's not hard aside and it's like, hey, can you go open the bottle of wine? Can you pour water into the glasses versus having it be picture perfect? Because I think that people like a little bit of imperfection.
They
Again,
do. They
right?
do.
And
And they
so,
want to,
yeah,
they want to smell. I always say, and even in my cookbook, like there's a whole section on setting the scene and how to having something too perfect almost makes people very intimidated
totally.
and feel like they can't really articulate it, but they almost feel inadequate in your presence. So what I always do is one, I allow people to bring something. I never say, oh, I got it. I got it. I want them to feel needed. And then
Included. Totally.
I also love to have one thing that people, my guests can see me prepping when they come in and I have it like basically like, made partially. And then I'll be mixing it and then I'll have something in the oven they can smell. People love watching like that behind the scenes. And how do you do that? And, so it's even if they're watching you grill or there's something, you have most of it done, but hey, can you help me pour the water in the glasses? Or can you help me carry this food out or something so that they're contributing.
Yeah. No, I'm like so spot on and right there with you. And that's so much what you're there to help people. We're there to help because it's giving those little hacks of like how to make it approachable and get over realizing it doesn't have to be perfect, but the intention really does still matter. And that energy you set, like you and I have kind of both identified, people remember how they feel. And if you're stressed out, then they're going to be stressed out. And so you want them to come in, feel very well taken care of, be intentional with those little details because subconsciously they matter. But that doesn't mean it has to be perfect. It's that fine line of it's well curated, it's well crafted, but like nothing is perfect. And also no one knows what it could have been or should have been.
No,
So,
in fact,
yeah,
it's funny you say that because I wanted my cookbook to be as edgy as it could be and still not be a banned book or something. Like
totally.
I wanted to capture the essence of me and that I love to have fun in the kitchen. Oftentimes my hair's up and I'm in like a moo kind of a dress but I really loved having no rules in the kitchen and not sitting on the counter with no sheet. Like actually on the back of my book, this is me on my record player.
Oh, yeah. I love that image. It's
And
such a good one.
this is actually a scene that we did for my juicy burger. And we were in my house, and this is our record player, which is it's such a cool
Hmm.
love this piece. And my food stylist, I really wanted a lot of my lifestyle shots to incorporate my dog and my kids. So this was a shot between takes, and my dog Simon was trying to eat a French fry. And they were like, "Oh, this is great." And if it were me, I'd want this on the cover because it's just fun. And that's what I want people to feel like in the
Yep.
kitchen. But of course, 3 boards win in the 2020.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
which is equally beautiful, but that the fun nature of hosting and entertaining. I mean, you are making these memories for people, but we are also making them for ourselves. And that's the number one thing that I want to send the message to people is it is just as fun sometimes to host something and you don't have to miss out on it like a wedding where you feel like, oh, I can't enjoy this. It's my own. That's something I really want to say is such a myth because people like you, Virginia, and your brand, you are really making this very, very doable and actually like enjoyable for people to be able to feel like they can handle. And I think it's really bringing back a lost art in this generation of people who just have so much on their plate that they just don't want to go to that party planning mode.
Completely. It's just another job versus something that I can enjoy. And the goal is get it back to be something that you can enjoy. And I'll share, and then I want to actually ask you a question about boards, and because I know it's a big thing. But one of the things that my career and what led to Partytrick, I've been a planner. It doesn't mean that I'm an expert florist or definitely not an expert chef. Like secret slash not secret known facts about me, I don't really cook. I'm really good at preparing what has been done and plating it and making it look great. And so planners, we find experts in every area. Like, and that's what even with Partytrick, like these aren't our recipes. These aren't our cocktails. Like some of them are now that Cassidy, my head of parties, like she's great. But we go and find these great resources for everyone else. We bring it together. So you don't have to know, like you, the average consumer, anyone has to know where to go. We want to make it easy instead of those hours of researching. And that's why, in a way, like I love with Party Trick, I can now bring people like you, Lauren, to everyone and highlight all of what you know works in this space really, really well and get it out there. And again, it's like, even if you're not amazing at doing one area, it doesn't matter. Go and outsource that area or go and get flowers from Trader Joe's. Go very simple, but address each section. You don't have to be an expert, but go to the expert and learn from them. We'll curate it all for you. A little bit, I hope that made somewhat
Yes,
some sense, but
absolutely.
totally. Okay,
Delegating
cool.
is very important because just like you, I am very good and have an eye for not only like cooking and knowing how much to prepare for a certain group of people. I'm really good at that, but then I'll go, oh my gosh, like do I need to be decorate? Like I'm very good at bringing very minimally flowers, and my husband's a minimalist, so he really feels like less is more. So sometimes I feel like I am not as great at if there is a certain themed party or something that I'm not as great for that. So like I would want you to come in and say, "Hey, I got the food and I know I need help with a theme kind of thing. I want it to be like old classic movies theme. And how do I make that so it's not tacky? And how maybe what are some tips on what food I can serve? And those are kind of fun things that people love going to these theme parties. My daughter's Darty was a Coachella theme
Yeah.
because her name's Ella. And so everyone showed up with like like you had everyone from like tacky touristy looking, kind of like beachy fun to really like sophisticated and classy beach wear. And it was really clever. So I would outsource that to someone like you and say, hey, Party Trick, how do I make this old 1980s prom dress girls' night fun? And well, I've got the food.
Yeah, no, for sure. And again, in a way, it takes a village to do anything and how we can kind of all get there and support ourselves. And when I think about a party or a gathering, I think about the plan. So, like the food, the beverage, the music, the invite. I think about the decor and the design as a separate section. So, plan, design, and then execute. And to master all of those skills is candidly like nearly impossible.
Yeah.
So it's how to bring them together, find the best. So, okay, Lauren, tell me a little bit. I mean, everyone loves a good board. I know
Mhm.
you do. Tell me a little bit about like, and also just what's your feeling on the whole board trend in general? Is it a trend? Is it gone? Is it going to stay? I mean, I think it's going to stay forever in various ways, but
Yeah, I
talk about
do.
board.
I mean,
Yeah.
charcuterie is a very old like term for actually like, dried and cured meat. We have sort of taken it and evolved it into okay, meats and cheeses. And then over time it's gone into meats, cheeses, and gummy bears. I mean, and
Mhm.
and so now I think the butterboard trend was disgusting, and I think that was very TikToky and weird. But I do think one thing I've been loving is food board because I think it's a very cool boards in general are a great conversation starter. So people come over and they gather around the table and it's really easy to have like a little plate of like little mozzarella balls on a toothpick with little grape
Yeah,
tomato and call it an appetizer and that's fine. But when people come in and they see this board, they go, "Oh my gosh, not only does it look delicious, but I want to take a picture of this." And then they send their friends and I think it's a work of art that is easily teachable because charcuterie, you can take a picture of the board and literally recreate it. So
totally.
there's no recipe. I could just take a picture of a board from a bird's eye view, send it to somebody, and then they can source in their market what they have fresh or local. So I think charcuterie board and food boards are in for the long haul because it's just another way to present appetizers, which will be around forever.
Totally.
I'm big on, as you can see, using seasonal foliage and what's fresh. And I always tell people that one of my favorite things to do is I'll go into Trader Joe's or a market and I'll see beautiful century roses that are peach. And I'll say, oh my gosh, these are so pretty. They're going in my cart. And then literally I'll wheel my cart around Trader Joe's and I'll see these gorgeous peaches. And I'll say, oh, peaches, these peach roses and these peaches. So then I think of this like beautiful, is it fall? Yeah, it's fall. Or, oh, it's spring. And that kind of thing, as someone who I went to an art school too in high school for painting. And I have this very visual mind. And so a board is like a palette to me too. So,
Completely.
so I'll then go around and I'll see not everything on my board is peach, but let's say I've had there's some beautiful like yellow tomatoes and I'll just sort of build this palette in my shopping cart and I'll come home and I'll sort of put it all together and then take some little buds from the flowers and put it in. All of a sudden it looks like this beautiful work of art that is also like incorporating your garden. And so I think they're just so much fun.
I was going to say it's like a work of art completely. And I also think when you're thinking about design and styling and do I know how to decorate my house appropriately, whatever, you can get really creative with this and you don't have to go the traditional, well, I don't know how to arrange flowers route, right? Like style your table with various boards with little bud vases and candles. Super simple. Almost anyone. I mean, my 6-year-old does bud vases all the time. Not going to put her on a big arrangement. That's a little bit hard for like almost anyone. But if you think about using your food to elevate the experience, it becomes also a much more communal experience versus something that's hoity-toity and overly stuffy. And I
Yes,
think,
exactly. And bud vases are my favorite way
yeah,
to just decorate my table for my little family. Sometimes I'll just use a bud, like I'll just buy one package of flowers from Trader Joe's. Let's say it's maybe, I don't know, half a dozen roses or some tulips and
yep,
take these little bud vases, put them in front of everyone's plate, which in my family is four.
yeah.
And my kids will sit down and I mean, they're probably used to it, but they still appreciate it. But if they have a friend over, they sit down and they go,
Oh,
oh my
special.
gosh. And they're like, I feel like it's my birthday. Then it's like mission accomplished. Like I just want everyone to feel special. And if we can raise a generation of people to feel seen and heard, I think there would be a lot less mental health issues, a lot less hate across the world, because I think mostly people's trauma, whatever they carry a lot of times can stem back from, I don't feel worthy. I don't feel important in my own family. So I'm going to act out in this way. So I just think it's so special at this family level to bring our little family and our little village of people together so that they feel good.
Yeah, I'm so spot on. I didn't share this with you and not to the same level, but I was a psychology major. I love
Oh
thinking
my
about
gosh.
what works, how people make decisions, connectedness, belonging. And I do believe, and I think as mothers, we think I don't know, at least my experience having kids, it's really made me think a lot about my childhood. It's made me a lot more intentional with my behavior in general and making sure the kids are seen, they're heard, there's downtime, there's busy time, a really good blend across the board that but they know I'm present. And I think the thing with like entertaining and just sharing a meal is our oldest form of just like community. And so much of
Yeah,
that's gone because it's like, oh, through your iPad and or have noise and distractions, just sitting and being together allows people to feel seen, heard, connected, and ultimately cultivates that worthiness that we all really need.
for
Um,
sure. And how
yeah,
cool is it that it's coming from that background. I think even though I never practiced as a licensed psychologist, any business that I had, it was like the foundation of life. Any friendship
completely.
I have, parenting. And so it's cool that that's another thing that we share. And
Yeah,
I think that's key because I was going to ask you if when people say to you, Virginia, you just know how to like what's your secret, right? I think the answer, and I can answer for both of us,
yeah.
just a fundamental need for people to want to enjoy life and they want to feel good. And that means that taking realizing that is really kind of a gift that we can teach and share and use to build up our brands.
I think you are so spot on, and thank you for taking the words out of my mouth because and actually articulating them more eloquently. So thank you.
That's
I love it. Okay. So talk to me a little bit about kind of your process when it comes to kind of when you were dreaming up the book or just day to day life on social. Just talk to me about how you work. Yeah.
yeah. So I've always loved telling stories. Instagram, when Instagram came out, it was like coming from a generation where there was MySpace and Facebook and they just it just felt it didn't feel right until then Instagram came out and it was like, oh, okay, well, here's this platform. You can share you can share like sort of like your lifestyle and you can what your with your brand, like I am Lauren Thomas, but I go by the Modern Hippie Way, and I want people to see whatever it is that I do. I whether it is traveling, whether it's writing, whether it's parenting, whether it's throwing a party, it's all done with the same sort of like simplistic elegance, I guess you would say. It's like
Yep.
um, and I really started to love sharing that on Instagram and even Facebook and blogging. And I realized that people were so drawn to, oh my gosh, well, how do you do this? And what's this recipe? And so then of course COVID hit and I started really spending a lot of my time honing in on what it is that I love to do and started typing out and printing in a binder all my recipes from my childhood and making up recipes and sort of put those into like a binder. And then I thought, oh my gosh, like I love this. And so I did it all backwards. I hired like the best photographer and food stylist, and I had them in my home for a course of 3 weeks.
Oh my
And
gosh. How
I
cool.
wrote a manuscript. I just knew what the title of my book was and I knew what my vision was. And I just shot like my food, my lifestyle. And actually, that's how I got discovered by a publisher who I also met from Hey Mama, a women's platform, like a connecting women,
Like
like-minded
networking
women.
online group. Yeah.
Yeah. And I posted one day that I was kind of proud of myself for getting all of this together and that I had written a book proposal and I was looking for a publisher. And lo and behold, someone, Angela Engel with the Collective Book Studio, she reached out to me. And once we connected, she said, wait a second, like you've photographed your entire book, but you haven't even written your manuscript. And I said, nope. And she says, oh my gosh. And she literally, we were on Zoom and she's like, I need to help you. And I said, well, what? Like, what's wrong with that? She's like, oh my gosh, well, you're supposed to write the book, then photograph it, because then we know. And I said, well, and so in reality, the message that I like to share is that even when you don't know where to start anyway, because had I not done it backward, I would have never been discovered by my publisher, because I would have just been one little manuscript with no pictures. And it ended up being like the best mistake I ever did. Expensive, because I did typically when you sign with a publisher, depending on what kind of publishing house you're with, typically they have in-house people that do all of that. So I had paid
For it
more.
before. Totally. That's
But
something it might have done, but it captured attention and it was different.
attention.
Yeah.
And I love that message, because so many people, including women, they say, well, I don't know where to start. I want to do this, but I don't know. It takes a lot of. Mine started with calling my neighbor down the street, who is the fashion photographer for Vogue. And I said, do you happen to know any food photographers? He said, no, but I know some really good I'll put you in touch. And I mean, the woman who shot my cookbook is mostly like a fashion photographer. And she had a blast doing this and did an amazing job. And then I had a stylist come in, and that was my favorite part of the process, because he's torching my ribs, making them look perfect, and tweaking with tweezers my lettuce on my burger. And
Oh my
it was
goodness.
such a fun behind the scenes that I loved also sharing. And messages, just start somewhere. It's not a setback. It's just get yourself in the momentum where you're just figuring it out by yourself, and just do it.
I love just start somewhere, just do it, get out there. And I think it's a really also brilliant reminder that the images are styled. It's not always real. So your burger is going to be delicious, but
Yeah.
I highly doubt the average person is going to be styling it. So remember, I think a lot of times people have this fear of entertaining. No one's going to remember if your lettuce looked exactly the way that Lawrence did, even though it was beautiful in photo. And the thing is, it's about the simplicity. It's about the intentionality in there. And like starting a business, like dinner, like anything, get out, start somewhere and do it. And you never know. There's no right or wrong way to do anything. People have asked me similarly in the past, like, how did you? And I'm like, I don't know. You just dive in. You just try.
You just
And
got
sometimes doing it backwards or doing it in a different way creates greatness. Otherwise, if everyone did everything the same way, there would be no innovation
And I
and
went for a
opportunities are
lot of
gone.
years. I was always spreading, like, my husband knew he wanted to be an architect since he was 9, but I've had so many little ventures that I've done. And I always felt kind of maybe guilty or ashamed of that. Like, well, does that mean that I can't start and finish something forever? But then after therapy, I learned, like, you can wear so many hats, and that's okay. Any little business or passion that you have in your life is leading you to the point that you get to. So there's no failing when it comes to getting back up and starting over and being better because of it.
Yeah, so spot on. And every opportunity and every lesson you have makes you stronger and more well-rounded when you get to that next venture. I mean, I think about, again, I'm just going to relate to my own journey. I wouldn't have been able to start Partytrick had I not had the years in this. Had this experience gone well, I might not be here. Had it gone wrong, I learned. So now I'm not doing it the wrong way this time around, right? So it's like taking it, learning from it, and not realizing there's any one set particular way. And all of those little bumps along the road make you that much stronger. If everything's smooth sailing and there's just like crystal laser vision from the moment you pop out of your mom's like womb,
Yeah, woo.
it's a
China.
totally different life. Wouldn't be nearly as interesting. It's the scars and the bumps that ultimately shape us and get us where we're in a way meant to go and can give back in the greatest fashion. So
For
I love
sure.
this.
And I have a husband who I'll say, so there's a section in my book called Girls Can Grill. And it's like one of my favorites, because it's sort of like that Rosie the Riveter thing. Like, we can do this. We don't have to delegate everything. And one thing that it's almost like my husband, when I'll say, hey, the grill's out of propane. Can you fix it? And he'll say, no, you can do this. Like, you've got this. And I'm like, ugh. But then he teaches me, I do it. And then all of a sudden it's like, I feel empowered, and I'm like, oh, okay, I know how to do this. And then I'm like, oh, okay, I know how. you don't know how to cook my meat right. So I'm going to take over this. And then that went into a whole like movement where, hey, like we've got this. We can cook meat. We can heat up a grill. We can turn it on. We can even change the propane. And
Yeah.
so sometimes like not knowing where to start is is like such a good thing. And to have someone that challenges me like that is like for me is great because I grew up kind of very sheltered and my parents did everything for me. And I love when sometimes he throws me in and says, just start, just do it. It's really benefited me.
Yeah, I am so spot on with you. So, Lauren, I love this. I'm so glad we're connected. I'm so excited for these journeys that we're on and how we're going to empower people, give them the tools to make amazing memories and to make these connections. So, we have a great blog about you, which we'll link in our show notes. But tell us, how can we support you? Where can our listeners find you? What else? Is there anything else you want to share with us before we head out?
Sure. So let's see, you'll have my website on
Yeah.
there and my Instagram is Modern Hippie Way with periods in between each word. And my book is for sale well, in most major bookstores all over Barnes and Noble, Books a Million, Books and Books, if you're from the South of Florida. There's it's Amazon. There and it's in so many beautiful little independent bookstores.
I love that.
I should have said that first because I really do believe in supporting indie bookstores. So if you have a little local bookstore and they don't carry my book, either ask them to order it or carry it. And that's keeping little gift shop bookstores and things open. So you can definitely do that too. And um yeah, I mean, just let's. I'm so excited to be a part of this and your brand too because I just love that we are two women, mothers, and we took our passion and just decided to kind of go for it. And thank you for prioritizing that process
Oh my gosh.
in our little interview.
Of course. Well, guys, check out the show notes. You'll see where you can find Lauren, her book, her Insta, website, all the goodness. Definitely check her out and go to your local bookshop. Ask them to order it if they don't have it already. We're recording right now in June. Oh my goodness. It's like the second day of June.
I know.
Um, and this will come out probably in the next month or two, which means end of summer entertaining, it's going to like she's going to help you crush. And then you get back into like the madness of back to school and the fall and then like all the craziness of holiday season. So get your practice, get out there. Lauren, we're so excited to chat. Thank you again. And
Thank you
forward
for
to,
having
of
me,
course,
and I can't wait to do more fun things together.
indeed. All right. See y'all soon.